Is it ready to go up? There it is. So if you want to find out information on us, you can do that QR code, and that will take you to our phone number, our address, our website, our YouTube page, and all them other whatever pages are out there. And so that'll take you right to those. And so you can do that QR code. So how was Biddles? Was it good? Yeah, yeah. Now where are you from? You've got, at least you got our color. You've got orange. Where are you originally from? Korea. They don't say Vittles over there, do they? Vittles? Yeah. Vittles. Food. So how was dinner? Wasn't it good? Y'all like it? I enjoyed it. I always enjoy eating here. Whenever I come here, the food is always good. Come back and enjoy the food again. Do y'all do dinner after every Sabbath? Okay, excellent. Good. So come and enjoy some good word from God and enjoy some vittles. It's good. All right. Immune system is really important. And I had a guy come in yesterday with cancer, and he was asking me, "What can I do? What can I do?" And the key is keep your. He'd had cancer. The cancer was gone. He wanted to prevent it from coming back. Keep your immune system up. That is what God gave us. It's the War Department. It's our Defense Department. It's what protects us is our immune system. And many times we're our worst enemy when it comes to our immune system, is we take it down. And I'd like to talk about optimal immunity, how to achieve it. We're going to talk about what is the immune system. We're going to talk about things not to do. And I find things not to do is just as important as things to do. Why? So let's say if I'm taking a piece of sandpaper and I'm rubbing my arm, what's going to happen? It's going to take the hide off of it. And you come and you say, "Honey, you need to put some medicine on there." And you put medicine on it, and then I say, "Oh, it need that medicine." You leave, and I just start rubbing the sandpaper again. And then you come back, and you come back tomorrow, "Honey, that's looking really bad. You need more medicine." You put more medicine on there. And then I go, "Is it going to heal?" No. And the same thing is true for our immune system. And when we do the same thing over and over and over again, and we get sick, there's a cause. Now, why do people get sick this time of year? You mentioned cold weather. That's one part of it. But there's 3 major events getting ready to happen. What are they? Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. And then you got New Year's Eve. Why are you sick? Halloween, you got a lot of candy. Thanksgiving, well, if you're like my sister-in-law, her family is unique. They live over in Nashville. So they prepare for Thanksgiving. And so what they do is the family comes together a couple weeks before Thanksgiving, and they have a pre-Thanksgiving dinner with all the possibilities of what Thanksgiving dinner could be and all the desserts. And then out of that dinner, then they choose what Thanksgiving dinner is going to be. They do the same thing for Christmas too. And then in December, what are you doing? You got parties at the office. You've got parties at church. You've got parties at the family. I mean, you're eating sugar all December. And then the week after Christmas, you're trying to be good, but then boom, New Year's Eve. And then you wonder why you're sick. And sugar is one of your biggest enemies. And we'll talk about sugar in just a moment. Things not to do. things to do, but there are things that you can do to boost your immune system. And then we'll look at, is there some things you can take that can be beneficial? So what is the immune system? The immune system distinguishes self from non-self and eliminates potentially harmful non-self molecules and cells from the body. The immune system also has the capacity to recognize and destroy abnormal cells that derive from host tissues. Any molecule capable of being recognized by the immune system is considered an antigen. The skin, cornea, mucosa of the respiratory and gastrointestinal tract form a physical barrier that is the body's first line of defense. Some of these barriers also have active immune functions. One of the problems is we got holes in our body. Where are those holes that can affect the immune system? Nose, eyes, mouth, ears. We got holes throughout our body. Urinary tract infections, ladies. So we have holes that allow pathogens to get in. And so for that reason, you want to be careful touching those areas. If you've touched something else, you just stick that pathogen right up against you. Things not to do. How do we weaken our immune system? Number one, sugar. Now, when I used to work in regular healthcare for 20 years, and for my energy for the morning, I'd travel. I was in North Carolina at the time, and I was doing a lot of travel and teaching. Not this regular healthcare stuff. And so what do you think I did for energy? Stopped by the gas station on the way. And what's in the gas station? A Dr. Pepper and a Snickers bar. And we're going to learn about what that can do. And then when I got to the meeting, what was at the meeting? Danishes and donuts. Well, you didn't want to disappoint them and not eat their stuff. And so then you walk up to old Henry, and Henry is, he's got the flu. And he's doing all this kind of stuff. And then I go up to him, and I, hey, Henry, how you doing? And he shake his hand. Then I grab my Danish again, and I start eating on it. It goes in the hole. Plus, I've just dumped my immune system going to the meeting, at the meeting. Does that affect us? It sure can. Sugar is huge. Stress is huge. Sleep deprivation. We'll talk about these individually. Sugar. Besides being a driver behind other chronic health conditions like diabetes and heart disease, sugar consumption affects one's body's ability to fight off viruses or other infections in the body. And here's how it happens. Someone earlier mentioned Neil Nedley. I forgot who it was. But I encourage you to read a book called Proof Positive. It's an older book, written back in the 90s, but an excellent book. And in there, Neil talks about what happens when you eat sugar, like a soft drink. When you drink a soft drink, a 12-ounce soft drink, what it will do, on average, it will lower your white count 50% for 4 hours. That's not a good thing. You don't want to lower your white count. So it anesthetizes those white cells. You anesthetize 50% of them for up to 4 hours. That's your soldiers. So let's say you're playing, now I'm not in competitive sports anymore, but let's say you're playing basketball with UT and you're wearing the orange. And do you want to have as many guys as the other side? You do, unless you're the Harlem Globetrotters or something, some real sharp guy. But then what happens if you eat a Snickers bar? Now, I'm not talking the Snickers bars I got today. I'm talking about when we were kids. That long. Y'all remember them. That Snickers bar, according to Dr. Nedley, in a 12-ounce soft drink, only 1 out of 14 white cells is going to work for the next 4 hours. You just anesthetize 13 white cells out of every 14 white cells. Let's say if you get a milkshake, Now, we're not talking about a big milkshake. We're just talking the regular size milkshake or a slice of cheesecake. Both of those, according to Nedley's research, you now lowered your immune system by, you just cut off 72 to 73% of your white cells from the next up to 4 hours. That's significant. How many guys you got on basketball? Now, no, you don't have 14 guys on basketball, but let's say you had 14 guys playing on basketball. They have 14, you got 1. You got a chance? You ain't got another chance. And so sugar is huge, and it literally just anesthetizes or puts to sleep our white cells for about 4 hours. White blood cells, also known as killer cells, are highly affected by sugar consumption. Sugar hinders the immune system by not allowing the white blood cells to do their job, and that's what we're talking about, and destroy bad bacteria or viruses, as well as when we do not eat sugar. So it works a whole lot better when we're not eating sugar. The average American eats approximately 22 teaspoons of sugar a day, 150 pounds of sugar per year, and 79 pounds of high fructose corn syrup per year. That's significant, and that's bad stuff. High fructose corn syrup is bad stuff. Sleep deprivation. See, when you look at sleep, there's 3 major components that we look at sleep. One is how many hours is someone getting? Hours, an hour is an hour. Okay, I have to translate here. How many hours of sleep do we need? What did Mayo Clinic say this morning? 7. But what did the Breslov-Belloc study, which is the gold standard, which is 6,900 people over a 15-year period, how many hours did they say a person needed to sleep? 8. That's right. Anything less than 8, you die quicker. Anything more than 9, you die quicker. So that sweet spot is 8 hours of sleep a night. The next thing you want to look at is, when did you go to sleep? Now, how many took health care? Who took anatomy and physiology? When we took A&P, remember let's go back a few years ago, back when we were in school, and you had those charts. And you had your chart with the bones on it, and the nerves on it, and the muscles on it, and the lymphatic system on it. Well, the chart with the lymphatic system, the brain was white, because we did not know that the brain had a lymphatic system when we went to school. But in 2013, it came out that the brain does have a lymphatic system. It's called the glymphatic system. The glymphatic system, when we go to between 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock at night, the glymphatic system does a deep cleaning in the brain. Lymphatic system is the sewer system, like lymph nodes. Well, the lymphatic system, the glymphatic system in our brain, from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, according to what Harvard found, it does a deep cleaning. From 10 o'clock to midnight, it does a thorough cleaning and flushing the brain. But you got to be asleep. Now, 2 years later, they did find that exercise also benefits the glymphatic, but, bold, red letters, Harvard says, you got to do both. You got to have the exercise. You got to be asleep by 9 o'clock to get that good cleaning of the brain. Significant, huh? We also know that the hours of sleep before midnight is worth twice the hours of sleep after midnight. The hours of sleep before midnight is worth twice the hours of sleep after midnight. Who knew Dr. Walter Strachan, a psychiatrist? Y'all have heard me talk about Strachan before. Strachan was a good friend of mine, a psychiatrist. He would go to bed between 4:30 and 5 o'clock at night. He would get up at 1 o'clock because he understood. This was pre-understanding the glymphatic system, because he was killed. He died from a motor vehicle accident. But Strachan did understand, as a psychiatrist, the hours of sleep before midnight is worth twice the hours of sleep after midnight. And he was getting those turbo hours of sleep from 4:30 or 5 till midnight, and only 1 hour of sleep after midnight. And he could tell, as a psychiatrist, what the effect on his body was, being able to do that. The other thing about sleep deprivation is REM sleep. And we talked about REM sleep earlier. That's the rapid eye movement. And the problem is where people don't get that full night of sleep. there are people who sleep so bad it's almost like they have sleep apnea. And I have people, it's not this bad, but I have people who come in with sleep apnea, and when I look at the chart, their records, it's saying that they're waking up in those hours of sleep over 700 times. They may not realize it, but their spouse knows it. If you have a spouse at night, they go. Well, what happened is your oxygen saturation, just their oxygen saturation went down, and it dropped down below 90, 89, 88, 87. Somewhere in there, the brain goes, wake up! And they go, they're having sleep apnea. Well, I'm very happy we don't have apnea monitors anymore. Who remembers apnea monitors? Divorces were because of apnea monitors, because we didn't have CPAPs and BiPAPs back then, and they had this little box, and when a person fell asleep, it would scream. This high shrill would go off, and the spouse couldn't sleep in the same room with them. Even in the other side of the house, it would wake them up. And literally, I saw divorces back in the 80s when I got into healthcare because of people, their spouses were getting woke up by this apnea monitor because they couldn't sleep at night. But we can have problems with getting to REM sleep, as we talked about earlier. You know, let's say you're having problems with prostate, and we're waking up multiple times a night to go to the bathroom in. Or ladies are having issues, you're waking up due to pain or whatever it is, and you're waking up and you can't fall back asleep, and then you fall back asleep, then you wake up again, it's up and down, up. You're not getting to REM sleep, and REM sleep is so important to get a good night's sleep. And remember, we talked about earlier that REM sleep is where we're putting that long-term memory into effect, and we're not doing that. Sleep provides essential support to the immune system. Getting sufficient hours of high-quality sleep enables a well-balanced immune defense that features strong innate and adapted immunity and less severe allergic reactions. Maybe they're having allergic issues because they just ain't sleeping at night. You know, many times we say, well, why does a person behave this way or have these certain issues? It could be from something simple as they're just not sleeping well at night. Lack of sleep can affect your immune system. Studies show that people who don't get quality sleep, or enough sleep, are more likely to get sick after being exposed to a virus, such as the common cold. Lack of sleep can also affect how fast you recover if you do get sick. Mayo Clinic. I know sleep for me is my challenge because let's say I have a wreck on I-40 at 2 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning. It blew my night because I'm going to be up. If it's a good wreck, I'm going to be out there for a while. Or if I have a house fire in the middle of the night, I'm going to be out there for a while. And so that can definitely affect my immune system because I'm just not getting adequate sleep. Stress. Many of today's illnesses and diseases are triggered by chronic stress. Stress is the number one diagnosis in America. Stress is the number one diagnosis in America. I was teaching a class of physicians back several years ago, and there's quite a few physicians there. And I asked, what do you think the number one diagnosis in America is today? Well, heart disease. No, that's the number one killer. But I said, how many of y'all have heart disease? 2 out of all them physicians raised their hand. I said, how many of y'all got stress? All their hands went up. Stress is the number one diagnosis in America today. Many of today's illnesses and diseases are triggered by chronic stress. Chronic stress, there's a difference in chronic stress and acute stress. Chronic stress is stress that goes over a period of time. That can be health related, can be job related, can be relational related. It can be things that just constantly happen. Then there's acute stress, and that's called eustress. And acute stress is on the way here today, someone pulled out in front of me, whoa, it stressed you out. Something that was acute happened really quick. And but we're talking chronic stress. It can wreak havoc on every organ system in the body and depress the immune system. Exactly how stress causes and contributes to disease is a question of particular interest to researchers. There are two likely pathways. One is behavioral. People under stress sleep poorly and are less likely to exercise. They adopt poor eating habits, going back to what we talked about before. Smoke more, don't comply with medical treatment. Stress also triggers a response by the body's endocrine system, which releases hormones that influence multiple other biological systems, including the immune system. Stress blows the adrenals. Blown adrenals affect so many things. Women's hormones, thyroid function, just so much. And when we're stressed, we blow our adrenals. 1 minute of anger can suppress your immune system for 6 hours. Now, y'all have seen this in Neil Nedley's book, Proof Positive. Anybody ever have anger? Something just really makes you mad, that person pulled in front of you? Or whatever it might be? 1 minute can blow your immune system for 6 hours. Now, I got to thinking about this, and I was doing, who knows Arvo Khanna? Y'all know, some of y'all know Arvo. Arvo is a neurologist. And Arvo and I were teaching this class one time together, and I said, Arvo, you're a brain guy. That's what he specializes in, is brain function. I said, so let's talk brain physiology. So Neil says here, and Arvo and Neil used to work together. I said, Neil says 1 minute of anger can suppress your immune system for 6 hours. Anger, physiology of anger versus physiology of stress, major stress. Is there anything really different in that physiologically? He goes, no. I said, could I then pull the word anger out and stick the word stress in there and have the same effect on the immune system for 6 hours? He goes, yes. So let's reread it. 1 minute of stress can suppress your immune system for 6 hours. Do you ever deal with some big time stress? Work? Traffic? Fortunately, I don't live in New York City. When I fly into New York now, I have people come get me because I'm afraid I'm going to kill them or they're going to kill me. I mean, they drive plumb crazy. Now, in Honduras the week ago, they're worse than New York City. I mean, they drive like Kigali. And I don't see how they stay alive. But I saw no wrecks. I mean, it's like the blood vessels just, I mean, literally, you're going up a road, it's a hill, a mountain, 2 lanes, and a tractor trailer just might pass you. Double yellow line. Traffic coming over here, traffic, tractor trailer in my lane, no problem, just come off on the side and then come back around it. I have no idea how they do it. Stress. Are there stresses that you deal with? Yeah, there's so many stresses out there. But I found an antidote to stress from one of the ladies that comes in. Now, this lady, she's from Appalachia. I've known her for many years. And she was kind of one of them people that gets tore up all the time. You know what tore up is? Upset. I mean, you just look at her sideways and she get tore up. I mean, tore up bad. She came in with some health issues last year. The last of last year or the first of this year. And it was an issue that stress could affect. But I've noticed that she's been different. Not the same lady as I'd known. And I said, what's your stress level? 0 to 10. She goes, 0. I said, no. I said, now 0 means no stress and 10 means a lot of stress. Now this woman used to be like 1,000. And I said, 0 to 10, what's your stress level? 0 being no stress, 10 being a lot. She goes, 0. I said, serious? She says, yeah. How? She said, about 2 years ago, I found Jesus. I just give everything to him now. Was that not the right medication? I mean, she's got it figured out. We got some figuring to do. Just give it to Jesus. It's amazing. So sugar, sleep deprivation, stress blows our immune system. But what about poor diet, vitamin D deficiency, alcohol, obesity, smoking, dehydration, and internet addiction? Poor diet. Diets that are limited in variety and low in nutrients, such as consisting primarily of ultra-processed foods, can negatively affect a healthy immune system. It is also believed that a Western diet high in refined sugar and red meat and low in fruits and vegetables can promote disturbance in a healthy intestinal in healthy intestinal microorganisms, resulting in chronic inflammation of the gut and associated suppressed immunity. Does it matter what we eat? It does. And if any of y'all were raised up here, y'all understand the importance of gardens. I mean, we grew up with gardens. We grew up picking peaches. That's peaches. We grew up picking apples. We grew up, putting up grapes. Y'all remember those days from our grandmas. My great-grandma. We put up food. We sit on the porch and snap peas. People don't do that no more. We sat there and we talked. You sang. You sat there and you peeled your peaches. You cut your apples up, and it was just a family thing. String beans. That's right. Stringing beans, or stringing beans. You're right. Why did we do it? Daddy said, if you don't work, you don't eat. He was very clear on that. We worked. And if you didn't help put up the food, Grandma had the same thing. Mom said the same thing. It's a family thing. You better do it. And back then, there was consequences. Remember those consequences? Yeah. Vitamin D deficiency. Deficiency in vitamin D is associated with increased autoimmunity and an increased susceptibility to infection. We talked about that earlier today, and that the 30 to 60 is not a real number for the immune system. You want an 80 to 100 for immune system. And the only way you know is get lab work. That's the only way you know. Research shows that vitamin D plays important roles in immune function, and a deficiency in it is shown to increase one's susceptibility to infection. Vitamin D deficiency can mean your immune system is more vulnerable. Low vitamin D levels have been associated with frequent infections. In 2009, the National Institute of Health warned that low vitamin D levels are associated with frequent colds and influenza. Pharmacy Times. Alcohol. Alcohol has a number of reasons. When I go in the school system and I talk to kids, I said, what's the problem with drinking alcohol? And you know what they tell me consistently? It makes mom and dad do stupid stuff. Do they see mom and dad do stupid stuff? They do. Alcohol compromises the body's immune system and increases the risk of adverse health outcomes. I think you're dealing with sugar, but also behaviors. Alcohol could trigger inflammation in the gut and destroy the microorganisms that live in the intestine and maintain immune system health. We learned during COVID that 75% of your immune system is in the gut. Very important to keep your gut healthy. Obesity. Obesity, like other states of malnutrition. And you remember the guy I talked about this morning? How much did I say he weighed? 572 pounds. Now, when I'm working with folks that are in that range, 400, definitely 450 and up, and I do a history to find out, what do you eat for breakfast? What do you eat for dinner? What do you eat for supper? And you can pretty well tell what that person eats. They're eating chips. They're eating ice cream. They're eating pizza. They're eating hot dogs, they're eating hamburgers, candy, they're doing soft drinks. It's just pretty consistent. That's what they consume. And how is that person at that size malnourished? What? No nutrients. Yeah, the food is it's calorie dense. It's not nutrition dense. It's calorie dense. Yeah, it's got calories, but it doesn't have a lick of nutrition in it. Pardon? And poor absorption. Absolutely. Yeah. When I go to Kigali in Rwanda, and I look at the people from the bush, they don't have issues of high blood pressure. They don't have issues of high cholesterol. They don't have diabetes. And I ask, what do you eat? They're eating just basic food, rice and vegetables, and some meat. But in Kigali has become, they make their own iPhones there, iPhone-like phones. There in Kigali, President Paul's, his goal is to be the Singapore of Africa by 30. But the people in the bush are slim. The people in Kigali, they look like us in East Tennessee. And what are they eating? We have sent them our food. Pizza Hut's there. McDonald's is there. The only thing is McDonald's, they don't have drive-through there. It's illegal to do drive-through at McDonald's. But you can walk in there. And they're eating our food. They're eating donuts. They're eating a lot of the foods that are empty calories. And because of that, they're having those health issues. Obesity, like other states of malnutrition, is known to impair the immune function, altering leukocyte counts as well as cell-mediated immune responses. Smoking. Smoking has changed since we were kids, yes? We don't see the smoking that we saw back when we were kids. Smoking was just normal. I remember when I started doing stop smoking programs in 1975 in Calhoun, Georgia. I would go into the elementary schools. I would go into the high schools and teach the harmful effects of tobacco. The average age of smoking in Calhoun, Georgia, that county, in 1975 was 4th grade. The kids came to school with cigarettes in their pockets. They could smoke waiting on the bus, but they couldn't smoke at school. Now the high school kids could. There was a smoking area for the high school kids. But for the elementary kids, they couldn't smoke at school, but as soon as they got off the bus, they could grab a cigarette and smoke. They started dipping at 2nd grade. That was in Calhoun, Georgia, that county there, which is Gordon County. So we've seen huge changes in tobacco education over the years, the challenges with tobacco. So we don't have to teach about that as much today, but there's still folks that are still doing tobacco. I had a couple come to me just this week, both of them wanting to stop smoking, and that's a good thing. Smoking harms the immune system and can make the body less successful at fighting disease. Vaping is terrible. Vaping, we're seeing the popcorn issue in the lungs. It's whole other issues we're dealing with there. Vaping is not good. If it has nicotine in it, you still have the cardio issue and the other, the issues that nicotine affects. Absolutely. Dehydration. We talked about consuming water earlier. Dehydration can weaken the immune system, making the body more susceptible to infections. When dehydrated, the body struggles to eliminate toxins, which can lead to a decline in overall function, and a decline in overall health and immune function. Dr. Batmanjati, we talked about him this morning. Batmanjati said that dehydration magnifies pain. So I had someone day before yesterday, I think it was yesterday, come in and they had problems at the knee pain. How much water you drank? I think it was 3 cups is what they told me. 2 to 3. It was, I remember now, 2 to 3 cups. So we're looking at 1 to 1.5 liters, or 1 to 1.5 pints, which is 1 to 1.5 water bottles. And I said, 1, your dehydration magnifies your pain. 2, you got fluid in between your joints. And when you're dehydrated, you have less cushion. And so you're more prone to be bone on bone. You need that hydration. It's so important. Internet addiction. Anybody ever hear of internet addiction? Yeah. Everywhere. Yeah. Let me ask you this one. There's actually a word. Have you ever seen a person go around and do this? Do you know there's a diagnosis for that today? It came out maybe 6-7 years ago. Psychologists came up with a diagnosis for that. And if you take a selfie, if you take selfies, more than 3 a day of yourself, there's a word for it. Very clear, selfitis. Selfitis. That is now a legal term. Selfitis. Inflammation of self. Can anybody tell me the first person that got selfitis? Lucifer. That's exactly right. Lucifer. I believe the universe boils down, and we talked about this morning. I believe the universe boils down to 2 words. Love, and love is of God. Self, and that's a word that Lucifer came up and started dealing with. And anything that deals with self is not of God. Self is selfishness, whatever word you put self to, that is of Satan. And so, do you see how love is so important? Love is of God. Self is not of God. It's of us. Internet addiction. Internet addiction can damage immune function. People with excessive internet use have 30% more cold and flu symptoms than those with less problematic internet usage. That's interesting. Those who, and if anybody can pronounce that name of that university down there, those who spend excessive time on the internet tend to have greater sleep deprivation. Guy comes to me probably 2 months ago. He comes in and his eyes look terrible. And he comes in and he says, "Can you help me?" And I says, "Have you been welding?" Anybody ever seen welding, burns of the eyes? I said, "Have you been welding?" He said, "No." I said, "You look like you've been welding." And he says, "No, I haven't." He says, "Please help me." And I said, I'm really confused because they don't look infected. They look like welding burns. And I said, "Anything else?" Just didn't say nothing. I said, "Well, we can address it like it's an infection, but it doesn't look like an infection." He goes, "Okay, I'll have to be honest with you." I said, "Okay." He said, "I have been competing for $1 million. And I have no idea. I'm not a game person, so I don't know the game he was playing. But there's a game that he was playing over the last 4 days. He had not had any sleep in 4 days. And he had been on that computer for 4 days in this competition. They allowed a break. He played. He had one more to play, and then he could go to Las Vegas and play for the international $1 million and be the best in the world at this. I don't know what game it is, but anyway. His eyes look terrible from gaming, sleep deprivation. Internet addiction, greater sleep deprivation, worse eating habits and less healthy diet, engage in less exercise, tend to smoke and drink alcohol more. And definitely we see that with internet addiction. Things not to do. Sugar, sleep deprivation, stress. Now we're going to have stress. We cannot say we will never have stress. But we need to manage that stress. Poor diet, vitamin D deficiency, alcohol, obesity, smoking, dehydration, and internet addiction. Things not to do. Things to do. Prayer. Homework for you. Psalms 91 and Psalms 103. Prayer is powerful, y'all. It's huge. There's so much I want to share. There's something I have found, now I won't go into the stories to back it up, but the power of saying, in Jesus' name, Satan, get thee behind me. It's huge. And if you will say that for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, that temptation, that stressor can go away. Satan cannot penetrate that. He can't. WHO, wash your hands regularly, soap and water, alcohol rub if not visibly dirty. Practice respiratory hygiene. Cover your nose and mouth when coughing. Throw the tissue into the clothesbin. Or into a closed bin, wash your hands. Remember those of us when Granddad would say, here you go. Remember that? Oh, Susie, you need it too. And then he'd take his handkerchief while he's and then put it back in his pocket for the next time. Do you remember that, y'all? Did they not do that where you come from? Well, yeah, it happened here. That is not healthy. You contaminate, cross-contamination. Throw it in the trash. A handkerchief is only good for a woman crying. You can hand her a hanky when she's crying. But don't blow your nose in it. Even yourself, don't use a Kleenex. Throw it away. Then wash your hands. Maintain social distancing, especially if coughing and fever. Prior to March of 20, this was 1 meter. And then in April of 20, it went to 2 meters. Avoid touching your eyes and mouth and nose, and we talked about that earlier, because it's holes in you. Mask and personal protective equipment. If you're sick, when caring for someone who is sick in a healthcare setting. I was flying last week to your home area. There was a lot of masks up there. You know what we went through the last several years. Use a mask appropriately. If you're unwell, stay home. Just make horse sense. Get other people sick. If you have a fever, cough, or difficulty breathing, seek early medical care. Whatever care that you choose. A healthy diet. A balanced diet consisting of a range of vitamins and minerals most effectively primes the body to fight infection and disease. Proactive. We've got to be proactive. Eating enough nutrients is part of a varied diet, and that's very important. Here it comes from Nutrients, the magazine Nutrients, but T. Colin Campbell at Cornell, Harvard is also very big. Mayo Clinic is very big. It's got to be a variety of nutrients. Used to, how could you tell if food had different nutrients? Color of the food. That's right. Color of the food. We're not dogs. We don't eat same-o, same-o. Same thing all the time. We need variety. Required for health and function at all cells, including immune cells. It needs variety of different foods. A cold shower. Anybody ever take a cold shower? Hot and cold. I took a cold shower in Honduras. They didn't have no hot water. They didn't even have a shower head because the water come right out of the creek, and the shower head get clogged up. And yeah. Has anybody never done hydrotherapy? Anybody ever never done hydrotherapy? Y'all are the first ones that, when you take a bath, you're doing hydrotherapy. Good. So what's the benefits of a cold shower? Strengthens the immune system, increases hormone production, improves circulation, increases metabolism, alleviates depression, it detoxes the body, improves male fertility, speeds up healing, prevents post-workout injuries, and decreases chronic pain, reduces body aches, improves your health, your hair health, improves kidney function, reduces swelling and edema, heals and tones the skin, regulates your autonomic nervous system, regulates uric acid levels in your body, and improves sleep. Those are benefits of a cold shower. Now, should we start with a cold shower or end with a cold shower? Why? Closes the pores. Exactly. It does. Closes the pores. A sauna. Saunas are really, really good. And then you can coordinate the hot shower with the sauna, then the hot shower with cold, then the sauna, then the hot shower, cold sauna. And it's amazing how it will clean the fat cells out. Saunas are great. That's a few days ago. Looks like some torture chamber, doesn't it? Then there's fever treatments. Fever treatments are, anybody ever do a fever treatment? Yeah. How'd you feel? You felt like you were dying? Yeah. Yeah, it does. Loma Linda Medical School said that it would increase the white cell count 7-fold. I did not believe it. So I had my nurses draw labs on our patients we were doing fever treatments on. You can tell I'm a fireman. At 5 hours, every single patient peaked at 7-fold. It didn't matter if they had arthritis, if they had prostate problems, if they had cancer. Every single one, they peaked at 5 hours at 7-fold. Amazing. Doesn't come back to normal, according to Dr. Harold Cherney's work at Eden Valley, till 3 days. Now, you do not have to have water to do a fever treatment. The water is not what does it. The water is what gets your temperature up. You can do it in a sauna, as long as your oral temperature is between 102 and 103, and you maintain that for 30 minutes. Put ice on your head. But so the benefits of a sauna is for that person who may not have a bathtub, or for the person who cannot get down into bathtub, or even worse, can't get out of a bathtub. And so a sauna, if it gets warm enough, can do that. Yes. So a fever treatment is where you go to the bathroom first. Then you will either get in a bathtub or you get in a sauna. And the heat of the water or the heat of the sauna will bring the oral temperature up to 102. You want it between 102 and 104. Once you get up around 100, or you can just go ahead right out at the beginning and put an ice pack on the head because you want to keep the brain cool. Every 5 minutes, check a pulse. If they get tachy on you, tachycardia, and you're worried about it, say over 130. I mean, when you go exercise, it gets up to 130. But if you're worried, just put a bag of ice on the heart, and the tachycardia come right back down. But if they're hypertensive, check the blood pressure every 5 minutes. So you're checking the temperature. If the temperature gets over 104, is that something to freak out on? No, because it's only because the water temperature is driving your internal temperature, kind of like a double boiler. So you just turn your coal spigot on to cool it down a little bit, and your temperature come right down. Or in the sauna, zip out or open the door, let a little heat out, and then your temperature come down, and you stay within that 102 to 104. You maintain that for 30 minutes. If you're in the water, even in the sauna, both, you've got vasodilation from here down. You got vasoconstriction here because of the ice water. They can be a bit woozy. So we would use a gait belt to ambulate them to bed because Loma Linda Medical School said they needed to lay down for 2 hours on the bed, and that would improve immune function even better. But what one of my therapists found was, therapists are smart. They're dealing with it all the time, They're in the trenches. And she thought, what if I just take that ice water I keep dipping in that rag in, putting on their head, lean forward, and she just poured it down the back of their neck and down their back. Woo! We didn't have no problem walking back to the room. Stand them up, spray some water on them. Also, you want to use not a lot of clothing. I like using like a hospital gown. They can shed because they don't want to take that wet clothing to the bed. And it's good to have a lady do a lady and a man do a man. And shed that, give them their privacy, dry off, put another gown on, go get in the bed for 2 hours. And then come back. You can, when they stand them up, shower them with some cold, and that's even better. And then walk them to the room and lay them down. And then when they're finished sweating, and because they will sweat in this, and then bring them back, give them another cold shower to wash that nastiness off if they sweated. And that's how you do it. Do it once a day. This is the United States Navy doing fever treatments. Now, what do you think this is? That is where, after the fever treatment, they went and rolled them up in that 2-hour period. What do you have to be careful when you do this? When they wake up, if they are by themselves, they're not used to being wrapped up like this, and they may forget that they're wrapped up like this. They may attempt to get up, fall, and break a hip. That's why those two nurses, we ain't seen them wearing hats in a while, have we? They did when I graduated. Our nursing students wore caps back when we were in school. You don't want them to fall off the bed and breaking a hip, breaking a shoulder, so the nurses are monitoring them to assist. Fomentations. When I was getting ready to go from my senior in high school to my freshman year in college. And there's an old guy my dad knew. He was 97 years old. And he said, "Walt, you're going into healthcare, ain't you?" "Yes, sir." He said, "I need to tell you something you might need someday." "Yes, sir." He said, "Back in 1917, when I was in the war," he said, "I was a nurse in the U.S. Army. And so World War I, he said, men were dying like flies. And he said, we didn't know why. We didn't know what to do." He said, we didn't know what to do. And then we found that if we do a certain treatment, they would live. And it was this treatment right here. It was fomentations. Really simple. You just put a hot towel on the chest for 3 minutes, take it off, put ice cold on the chest for 30 seconds to a minute, take it off, put hot on again for 3 minutes, go back and forth, back and forth. Hot, cold, ice, hot, then ice cold. And he said they started living. And it works. During the COVID, I told folks all over the world about this who would call in and saying they had COVID pneumonia. And it helped a lot of people. And I'm so glad that old nurse taught me that. And it works very well. It's simple. You can do it from at home. Yes, we used to use things called hydroculator packs in PT. They quit paying us to do hydrotherapy in 1992 when the insurance companies quit paying us. But hydrotherapy is phenomenal. Using hot or cold contrast showers, bathing, or fomentation can powerfully optimize immune function and greatly stimulate antibody production against viral and other forms of infection. Yep, many of y'all know Youngberg. During the influenza of 1918, there was a school that several of us went to school at down in Chattanooga. And they had just moved from Graysville, Tennessee, down to Collegedale outside of Chattanooga. Girls had the first dormitory. The boys were living in tents. And the influenza came. They had a nurse that had just graduated from, what's the school up in in Ohio. Kettering. And he was a nurse, and here comes the Spanish flu. And he starts treating them with that treatment, the hot and cold fomentations to the chest. He had an assistant. Not one person died. Not one person died. Then there's a school in Huntsville, Alabama called Oakwood College. They started to get the influenza. So he and his assistant got on a train, and they went from Chattanooga to Huntsville and started doing that treatment on the kids at that college. Not one of those kids died of the influenza. By that time it came back around, we saw with COVID it come back around. Well, it came back around to Collegedale again, Chattanooga. So he and his assistant got back on the train, went back to Collegedale, started treating the kids again with that treatment. That's what that 97-year-old guy told me, that nurse. Not one of the kids died. He and his assistant got the influenza. His assistant did die. He was sick himself and could not treat his assistant. But that's how powerful this treatment is for pneumonia. Things to take. Vitamin D is very powerful. Garlic, onions, oil of oregano. Oil of oregano is my 357 Magnum. That is powerful. I've got it in my coat pocket, in my turnouts. I've got it in my backpack for my wildland fires. I've got it in my backpack for search and rescue. And I've got it in my computer backpack when I'm on the road. It's amazing. Now, there's a difference. There's oregano oil. That's oil. And then there's oil of oregano. Now, oregano oil is 100% oregano essential oil. Do not put that in your mouth. It will burn your mouth, your tongue, your esophagus, your stomach. It is not good for you. But oil of oregano, all you're doing, one is oregano oil. This one's oil of oregano. Oil of oregano means it has oil in it. Olive oil. 75% olive oil, 25% oregano. That's what this is. So what I'll do, if I feel like something's catching, you know how you feel like you're catching something and you know you're going to get sick? Well, now don't do this. I'll put 10 drops under your tongue. You're going to think I'm trying to kill you. Start out low. Work your way up. But I'll put 10 drops in my tongue, and I hold it as long as I can, then I chase it with some water. Now in 20 minutes, I'll do it again. If it's back at 2 hours, I'll do it again, but it usually don't come back. It's gone. But the key is in the incipient stage, that very beginning. Once you feel like you're starting to get sick, now, like Tamiflu. Tamiflu is no good if after how many hours? 48. If you take Tamiflu after 48 hours, it ain't going to do you no good. This stuff, take it immediately. One night I woke up and I've got oil of oregano usually at where on my side of the bed. Mary Lou usually has it on her side of the bed. I woke up the night, I felt like I was catching something. I checked it. I didn't have any. I checked her side. She was out. Both of us were plumb out. I knew if I waited till the next morning till I got work, I'd be sick. I would start getting sick. So I got up, drove my pickup down to the store. That's about 35 minutes. Took some oil of oregano, got 2 of them. Went back up to the house. One for Mary Lou, one for me. I took it again, went back to bed, and I didn't get sick. Oil of oregano is powerful stuff. It really is. It's antibacterial. It's antiviral. It also works extremely well for mold, if you have mold toxicity. Dr. Bob Martin, if you've ever listened to Bob Martin, he'll do 3 drops 3 times a day, work his way up to 15 drops 3 times a day. Pardon? Yes. Sure. Put it in a veggie capsule, and it's a whole lot easier. A whole lot easier. Um, yes, you still want oil of oregano. Correct. There's a question of. So if it's already says oil of oregano, it's already got the oil with it. But if it just says oregano oil, then you got to mix it. Yes. Thank you. Zinc, we learned about zinc during COVID. The problem is people were taking, mega doses of zinc. Their doctors were telling them to take 200 milligrams of zinc. The problem is that if you're taking more than 30 milligrams of zinc, you can lower your copper. And so you've got to supplement with 3 to 5 milligrams of copper if you're taking higher doses. Like a lot of people take 50 milligrams of zinc. And that's fine, but you've got to take your copper or it'll lower your copper. Vitamin C, a lot of people forget about the benefits of vitamin C. Vitamin C is so easy, so good for us. Vitamin C has a half-life of 30 minutes. So just once a day, if you're sick, you need it multiple times a day. Unless it's liposomal vitamin C, and then it's about 5 or 5.5 hours half-life. Vitamin B6, vitamin E, elderberry. Who's used elderberry? Great product. And elderberry prevents viruses from attaching to the walls in the lungs. And they found that over in the University of Sydney, which is important for lower respiratory issues. Astragalus, echinacea, golden seal. I should have put golden seal. I love golden seal and echinacea together. Iodine and NAC. So those are some of the things you can do for immune system if you're having challenges with the immune system. But most important is do what you got to do to keep the immune system up. Get your sleep, manage your stress, don't eat refined sugars. And then we saw the list of all those other items. Is there any questions on immune system before we go to diabetes? Yes. Yeah, and they're just, when we look at white flour, it's processed. And we also have the issue we have with flour. That's flour. And the problem is the European flour, or the old flour, had 14 chromosomes. Our flour today has 42 chromosomes. Plus we spray it with Roundup. When you spray things with Roundup, wheat, corn, soy, alfalfa, any of those things, when Roundup is on the soil, it then binds the magnesium and the plant can't pull it up. Another reason we're low in magnesium. But yes, you can have some conversion there. It's just best not to touch them anyway. And your brown rice is going to be better also. Yes? That's a big question. And it's two issues. One issue is how do you fall asleep? And then how do you stay asleep? Two different issues. So falling asleep can be tough for me because my brain does not like turning off because I'm thinking about everything I didn't get done today on my list. There's days I don't scratch off one thing on my list. And then I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get that done plus the list I got tomorrow. And then that's where she comes in. And she hands me one, sometimes two ashwagandhas. And that can help me. Also, I can put some magnesium oil on my feet, and that can help me. Melatonin doesn't help you fall asleep. Melatonin helps you stay asleep. We're seeing people use 180 milligrams of melatonin now. We're seeing melatonin being used by physicians to stop the growth of cancer. And if it's metastasis, they're doing as much as 60 to 120 milligrams 4 times a day. And it's stopping the growth. But here's the problem. When you get up at night, and if that light is any color than red, it turns off your melatonin or significantly lowers it. So if you look at your phone, boom, you just turned it down. If you get a message, boom, you just turned it down. If you look at the time, you just turned it down. If you decide, well, I'm up, I need to go ahead and I'll just read some verses in my Bible, boom, you just turned it down. If you have a night light that's any color than red, you just turned your melatonin down. In the bathroom, same thing. There's only one other color that doesn't turn down the melatonin, and they have no idea. Do you have questions you want to ask God when you get to heaven? This is one of my God questions. Any color other than red turns off or significantly turns down your melatonin, except, well, sunlight will turn it off. Except if you go outside at night and you can lay out there and fall asleep and it's a full moon, if you wake up, the moonlight will not turn down or affect your melatonin. Isn't that cool? That's sunlight reflected. And they have no idea. Any of the researchers in the world have any idea why that is. Yeah. So that can affect. But how do you stay asleep? The melatonin can help to stay asleep. Sometimes magnesium helps people stay asleep. L-theanine can help people. That's an amino acid, L-theanine. Some people, when they bounce on a mini trampoline, that can help to fall asleep. Not real hard, but just a soft bounce beforehand. A warm bath can be beneficial. A bath in Epsom salt can be beneficial. Some people find the most anti-inflammatory phytochemical in the world is copaiba. C-O-P-I-A-B-A. C-O-P-I-A-B-A. Take 4 to 5 drops sublingual before going to bed, and some people find that to be very beneficial. It works on the same function as CBD, but it works actually better with the cannabinoids. And it helps a lot of people with the fact of falling asleep. Yes, ma'am. We have a weed here that works really good. It's called stinging nettle. Stinging nettle. And stinging nettle is amazing. It is the most nutritious herb in North America. Now, Minnesota, in the upper areas of Minnesota, Wisconsin, they'll put it in their stews, their soups. When Marilyn and I went to Alaska, they cook it up like spinach. But stinging nettle is phenomenal for helping your adrenals. Then there's a product called Adrena Sense, and it has just herbs in it. It's got ashwagandha, astragalus, what else, Mary Lou? Suma, ginseng. Ginseng's a great one. That's another one. You're from South Korea. Y'all use ginseng? Well, here we call it sang. Sang. And if she's going out to pick it today, and she says, "I'll be back later, I'm going singing," that does not mean she's going to sing with her voice. She's going to pick ginseng. That's called "I'm going singing." So we're helping you out there. Ginseng. What else? Shishandra. Yeah, another great one, Shishandra. So those things can boost. But the biggest thing, what's the sandpaper? Stress. Address the stress. So important. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I use things to address problems. So colloidal silver is a great tool. Who's ever used Silvadene? Yeah, we used it in healthcare for burns. You can put colloidal silver on there, and it will do the same as Silvadene. If a person's immune, I had a lady. I don't know if you saw the lady come in the other day with her jaw was just really swollen where she had a bad tooth. Did you see her? And then I saw her last night when I was getting fuel yesterday afternoon, and she was at Walmart getting gas, and I mean she looked normal. It was total. And just a few days ago, it was all big old, looked like a chipmunk on one side. It was all infected, and we used colloidal silver. And if you use a good one, you can do as much as 1 teaspoon 7 times a day, and that's what I encouraged her to do. And it totally took out the swelling in that infected tooth. Just drink it. Mm-hmm. But it's good for the. It's antibacterial. It's antiviral. Colloidal silver is a good tool. Yes. Yes. N-acetylcarnosine. So you can get that from a health food store. Folks are usually taking 600 to 1,200 milligrams based on acuity. Yes. About what? I'm not familiar with it. Cortidine. How do you spell it? I don't know that herb. Pardon? Which ones? Okay. You know, we are so blessed. When I was in Honduras, they got herbs that we don't have here. When I was in Africa, they got herbs that we ain't got here. And God puts herbs at different places that are so beneficial. Yes. I'm just not familiar with it. Okay. Okay. Yes. Yes, let's take a break.
Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute break, and we're going to start at 20 So we have water. Bathrooms to the left, to the right. We have some bathrooms downstairs too. So,
And don't forget the book, y'all. Stay at the very end of the next meeting. Those who do not have this book that Barbara O'Neill used to change her career, they're for free.